my daughter-in-law made one mistake that changed everything. On their 5th wedding anniversary, she posted a smiling family photo from an expensive steakhouse with a caption that read, "Family only." As I looked closer, I saw my son sitting beside her, surrounded by her parents, siblings, and cousins. I was the only one missing. The woman who had spent 5 years paying the property taxes, electricity, water, heating, and countless groceries for everyone under my roof had suddenly been told I was not family. Instead of crying or arguing, I quietly liked the post and left one simple comment: if only family pays the bills, then from now on, the family can pay all of theirs. Within minutes, my phone exploded with calls, but I ignored every one of them because I had finally reached my limit. My name is Evelyn, and I am a 65-year-old widow living in the downstairs unit of the duplex my late husband and I bought decades ago. My son Ethan and his wife Madison lived upstairs without paying rent, while I covered nearly every expense. At first, I did it out of love because I wanted to help them build a comfortable future. Over time, that kindness became an expectation. Madison slowly treated me less like family and more like unpaid staff. She invited her relatives over for meals I cooked, filled my backyard with her furniture, used my washer and dryer without asking, and emptied my refrigerator whenever she pleased. Every act of generosity was taken for granted until I finally realized I had become invisible inside my own home. When Ethan rushed downstairs demanding I delete my comment because Madison was embarrassed, I calmly handed him copies of the utility bills I had been paying for years. I informed him that beginning next month, every bill for their apartment would be transferred into their names. He stood speechless while trying to understand why I had chosen that moment. I simply explained that if I was not considered family, then I would no longer carry responsibilities that belonged to family. Madison stormed in accusing me of blackmail, but I quietly reminded her that adults are expected to pay their own way. The following days brought one change after another. I had the utility meters separated so they would finally pay for their own electricity and water. I reclaimed my backyard by moving their patio furniture onto their upstairs deck and creating a peaceful garden space for myself beneath my favorite cherry tree. I locked my expensive washer and dryer after years of being treated like a free laundromat. I stopped filling the shared refrigerator with groceries and bought only enough food for myself. For the first time in years, I enjoyed quiet evenings with a book and a glass of wine, while the constant arguing upstairs reminded me that they were finally facing responsibilities I had been shielding them from. Sunday became the biggest turning point. For years, I had prepared large family dinners, while Madison invited her relatives without even asking me. Instead, I dressed nicely and spent the afternoon enjoying lunch alone at a beautiful lakeside restaurant. When I returned home, Ethan admitted everyone had expected me to cook and had been forced to order takeout at the last minute. I gently reminded him that since I was no longer considered family, there was no reason to continue acting like their personal chef. The uncomfortable silence that followed spoke louder than any argument ever could. A few days later, Ethan sat with me carrying apartment listings and a budget. He confessed they could not afford to move while paying rent, utilities, food, and all the other expenses I had previously covered. He apologized and asked if things could simply go back to the way they had been. I told him this had never been about one Facebook post. It was about years of disrespect. If they wished to stay, they would sign a proper lease and pay fair rent like any other tenants. Madison refused immediately because she believed the house would eventually belong to Ethan. Anyway, I calmly reminded them that I was still alive, and as long as I owned the home, I deserved peace inside it. When Madison threatened to move out, she expected me to beg them to stay. Instead, I quietly bought moving boxes and placed them outside their apartment door. That was the moment she realized I would no longer bend to manipulation. 2 weeks later, a moving truck arrived, and they packed everything without another dramatic confrontation. Before leaving, Ethan hugged me with genuine regret and apologized for allowing me to be taken for granted. I forgave him, but I knew things could never return to the way they had been. After they drove away, I stood in the peaceful silence of my home. It was not lonely. It was freeing. I renovated the empty apartment upstairs and planned to rent it to respectful tenants. With the extra income, I began dreaming about traveling through Italy and southern France, something I had postponed for years while supporting other people. Looking back at that anniversary photo, I realized it had not ruined my life. It had saved it. I had not taken revenge or started a war. I had simply stopped sacrificing my happiness for people who refused to appreciate it. For the first time in years, I was no longer living as a supporting character in someone else's story. I had finally become the main character in my own.